The biggest problem of remote work is actually overwork.
I found myself working super late.
I barely shut down from work 100%.
The tough part is I am a workaholic.
I 100% work more than I should.
It took a really long time, I think, to find that groove and to not feel like I was working all the time initially.
At first, almost all employers will see a spike in productivity, almost across the board. Where that's coming from is not sustainable. The source is actually that their workers feel an unspoken pressure to be performing. They feel that their employers don't trust them to continue to be working unsupervised. Workers actually work more than they did in the office because of this unspoken pressure.
As you see, I'm in an apartment. This is where I live. I've got my work here. I just need to open my laptop. So potentially I can be dragged in 12 hours a day into work if I don't shut it off.
It's very easy for me to be here in front of my computer in my office for 6 to 8 hours straight. You'll stack up meetings because you have that time available and you will fill that time.
Because you're not traveling to work, you're not traveling from work. And I don't know if it's intentional, but there is kind of like a feeling that I need to sort of fill that space sometimes. It is very easy to kind of lose that personal time that you normally had because there isn't a hard cutoff anymore.
I mean, I think I would probably be more, sort of mentally burnt out working from home, even compared to a day where was just sort of stacked with meetings when I was in the office, right? Because there are those built-in moments of the day when you are just taking a break and you're being social.
So we used to have a buffer zone between being at home and being our personal selves. And then we get in a car and we drive 45 minutes and we have those 45 minutes of time and psychological cues of getting in the car and sitting on the freeway and going up the elevator to all signal to our brain, it's time to get into work mode. It's time to get into work mode. So that by the time we sit down, we're in work mode and we're ready. And then we have the same decompression routine after work that gives us a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour to get out of work mode and get fully present for our personal life.
So you have to become very good at creating routines, like a startup or like a wind down routine to kind of learn when work is done or when work starts.
The more that we do the same thing consistently, the more that will create signals for our brain that it's time to get into work mode and out of work mode without the contextual cues of our environment.
Working remotely for me was really hard in my early days of Adobe.
Trying to understand and how to treat your home now that it's my office. And that was a tricky one starting out.
The house wasn't really conducive to me, I think, being creative. And that's not great when you have a house full of kids and there's lots of interruptions. And, you just kind of get caught up in the day-to-day of life at home. And so I was a person that never really felt I could get into like a creative groove.
Setting your mindset to understand how to separate work from home and still being in the same location is quite difficult mentally. That's why we decided to kind of split the house in the sense where one side of the house is the office space and then the other side is like, you don't bring work into this area. You don't talk about work in this area. This is pure entertainment, pure family time, pure cooking, pure whatever, sleeping, whatever, right? That stays on that side. And that's worked for us. That's been the biggest adjustment, I think.
My transition to remote work was a mixed bag, honestly.
It was hard. It was a hard transition.
I'd say the first 6 months, even though it was my choice and it was something I was really excited about and something I really wanted to do, the first 6 months were probably the most challenging.
It was actually really hard to be creative in the work from home setting. And not really understanding why for a very long time. And I said a lot of it was really, me, of course, hitting a wall and being frustrated, but then sort of stepping back and sort of self-reflecting. I'm like, okay, well, why? Why am I feeling these ways? Why does it feel like pulling teeth or like this laborious process just to sort of design or create kind of the smallest thing or complete kind of the smallest creative task? Like, why is it feeling this way?
The hardest thing was just being away from the team. Nobody really in the office was remote yet. And so when I went remote, the first month was like pretty exciting for me, but for them, it was really hard. And then after that, I felt like I was missing out on a lot of that in-office culture. All of that was gone. And so was the ability for them to get me into meetings on Zoom, where if everybody was in the conference room, I'd be the only one on Zoom. The connection was weird. I wouldn't be able to hear side conversations. And so that transition was very difficult for me.
I was really figuring out how did I actually work best, not what other people told me how I should work. So I didn't have that reflection of being in the office and working around other people and, my boss or the CEO or whatever dropping in to be like, how's everyone doing? Like, are you guys actually working? There was none of that. So I had to really, I call it kind of like an unraveling. I really had to unravel from a belief system that basically I valued other people's opinions more than mine.
But then I really had this creative breakthrough at the end of last year, where again I started to really think about what are the things that inspired me, that helped me be creative, to help me get into that creative flow. And I realized that it actually was my work day. It actually was going into the office, and it wasn't just about being in the office. It was about the possibility or the opportunities for new things to come into my sphere, new things to influence me, new things to spark me creatively. That what I was actually doing was actually using those moments to find that creative energy, the thing that was going to help propel me through the day. And of course, being at home but not having those moments, that was the crises I was facing. Well, that's who I am at the office, but what are going to be the things that drive me here at home in my own office when I don't have those opportunities? Again, I have to go and be deliberate, and I have to go and deliberately create those connections with my mentors, with my peers, with my colleagues, finding that creative inspiration in my daily life. I'm gonna have to surround myself with that a little more than I used to.
There's lots of great things about remote work, but there's also a lot of challenges too. And one of the prime challenges is that it's very easy to get isolated and feel like you're not bonding with your team or you're not part of something.
I can easily, honestly, stay at home for 2-3 days without even leaving the house.
I have had days on end where I end up not leaving the house.
I don't feel like that everybody is ready or capable of remote working.
I don't think remote work is for everyone, honestly. I work for a remote company and I advocate for remote work, but I know it's not for everyone. I have friends who have tried to work from home and work remotely, and they're like, it's not for me, and I get it.